They're fun to watch.
Yeah. I've got a great uncle who lives in South Bend, and they get season tickets for the Notre Dame women's team every year. Go to every home game.
You do? Or he does?
Live.
He does. I don't.
You don't ever pick it up there?
I mean, occasionally, but not too often these days.
I grew up on there.
Oh, really?
Well, I grew up on
My mom's from South Bend.
What did you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
My wife got from South Bend.
Yeah.
She grew up South Bend.
A lot of snow.
They got hit hard, yeah. We didn't get hit too bad for where we're at, though, really.
Well, hi, Cindy. I'm Shannon.
Oh, yeah.
Hi. I mean, it's all, electronic.
And Molly didn't come.
No, Molly did not come. She doesn't do any of the meetings. She just kind of hangs, unless I'm double booked. But for the most part, I try
Great
to.
to meet you. She's great. So,
Well,
yeah.
thank you. Thanks. So yeah, she's come a long way.
It's
So.
probably been 50 years since I've been to a Notre Dame football game or basketball.
Yeah, tickets for football are expensive, I bet, these days.
I never had to pay for a ticket when I went.
Yeah.
I don't know how I got that, how I worked that out, but
Yeah.
pretty neat.
I've been to a couple. They were fun football games to go to. Despite growing up a Purdue fan, prejudiced against Notre Dame.
It's always a hard game for me to watch
Yeah. Torn by my
anymore.
Catholic guilt and upbringing versus my loyalty to Purdue football.
They're done now, right? For the season?
Thank God.
That's painful, wasn't it?
Go ahead
Bears are good though.
and circulate this
Oh.
sign-in sheet.
I like that too.
Bears are
I'm
good.
always
You've got
been
the
a
proof
Bear
of
fan.
publication right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, so we
Perfect.
made it. That's what. And
That's
then
great.
I just brought the canceled
And
private
then
check.
that's the check, the first check that you wrote,
That
and then
is-
your ETN.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll take both. Those are these copies for us.
These
then?
are copies.
And then we'll make sure they all get in the file, and then
Okay.
I'll tell, after we get done with the presentation, then I'll tell you what the next steps are gonna be.
Okay, that'd be
Okay?
great. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go through all of that, what the next steps are.
Okay. Darn.
You guys,
Nice
you
No,
haven't
that's
sent the
her.
final bill yet, have you? But you're, okay.
We're waiting for this to happen.
And get there it is, and that's what we'll go through, and I'll talk about that afterwards. Absolutely, we'll talk about how we close her all up and put the bow on that box.
I'm still amazed they accepted it on the draft submittal.
Huh?
I'm still amazed they already accepted it.
They loved it.
So this is.
There was, I know.
This is for the public
This
hearing.
guy.
It is. It's specific for the, because I have to document that we had a public hearing, we have to have a sign-in sheet, so.
In the same vein, you gotta make sure you open and close the public hearing.
Right.
Yeah, so however you wanna open and close it, that's fine.
Okay, we're at 6 o'clock. We're gonna go ahead and get started. This is December 3rd, 2025, Dayton Town Council special meeting. First thing on our agenda is the public hearing, and I will now open the public hearing.
Okay.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Okay. Carla.
Present.
Mark.
Present.
Steve.
Present.
Rocky, I missed you. Rocky.
I bet you two fifty.
Oh.
Present.
And Mike. Absent. Okay.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing.
All right. Well, good evening, public and town council. My name is Shannon McLeod, and I am a federal grant writer and administrator. I worked with the town about a year ago to help them obtain a planning grant through the Office of Community and Rural Affairs. I think we got about $87,000, if memory serves me. I get some of those, but it was around that. And in turn, we utilize those funds to hire and retain the services of BFS Engineering to complete a utility engineering study. And as part of the grant process, we are required, once the plan has been drafted, it is submitted to the Office of Community and Rural Affairs to review to make sure that they felt that the information that was provided is adequate enough to allow you, should you decide to move to the next level and actually trying to implement some of the improvements that were recommended. As we get ready to close out the planning portion, we are required to have a public hearing. Case in point, that's what we're doing this evening. And the main purpose of this hearing is to allow the BFS representatives to kind of go through a executive summary of the plan, allow the general public to ask any questions that you may have, and just comments in general. And then once we finish that up, then we can close the public hearing, and we will need to pass a resolution adopting the plan, which you kind of already have done that, but we have to sign it. And then I will in turn get the minutes of this hearing and all of the signed resolution to the state. And that in turn will authorize us to draw down the remaining funds to pay the final invoices from BFS, okay? So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Chris and your team. Colin, you guys decide who's on first and talk away, tell us know what the process was and what all the good things that you found out were.
Well, I think you guys all know me, but I'm Chris Lemiak with Butler, Fairman, and Seifert. I'm our Water Resources Department Manager from our Lafayette office. Also got Colin Sullivan and Anthony Bass with me. Anthony is one of the engineers who had a very heavy role with this study, and he did a lot of the work on getting this to the point that it is today. So just a rundown, we studied all three of the town's utility, stormwater, wastewater, and drinking water. With all three of those studies, they're each separate documents. The goal was to first start by summarizing your existing system. That's looking through your existing documents, existing plans, your GIS to come up with just a broad summary. You have this many manholes, you have this many pipes that are that size, you have this many pipes that are this size. And then summarizing what all you have in your inventory now. The next step was then to kind of assess the conditions of that. So, for example, with the water utility, that involved creating a hydraulic model of your system to gauge its performance, how well it's serving your customers, what kind of water age we're seeing in the system, what kind of pressures we see at different areas. With the sanitary, we're looking at capacity of different sewer sections, how much is being used, how much additional capacity you may have for growth or expansion, and things such as that. In that analysis, what we were trying to do was identify if there were any deficiencies that we could see from our end. That's from a modeling, a computer standpoint, and then we worked with the committee that was established by the town, as well as your operator and town manager, to see if there were any deficiencies that were noted that you're seeing as you're operating this system in real life. So we had several meetings to kind of go through that, to identify pain points or potential issues that you see on a day-to-day operation basis, and then see how that matched up with any maybe model deficiencies, areas of undersized pipes that we were seeing from our desk review, basically, of the system. So with that, we were able to kind of get a good summary of how things are working. And I think one of the great things about Dayton is that your utilities are really doing a good job. They're in good shape, and you also have the benefit of them being relatively new. I know it seems like they're older. Some of these systems were built in the 70s, 80s, but when it comes to utilities, that's still kind of new. You've got towns that got systems that were 100 plus years old and they're still in operation today. You guys don't have that. Most of the pipes and systems that you have are what we would consider more modern construction. You don't have clay pipes for your sanitary sewers. It's plastic. That's what we put in today. So there's good material, good condition, and whatnot out there. So I'd kind of like to start with stormwater, give you a brief summary of what we were looking at on the storm side of things, and then step through some of your other utilities. So stormwater is a little bit different from your other utilities in that there's not really a full town-wide system that serves the whole town and then outlets to a single point. Similar to other towns of your size, stormwater is often kind of piecemeal put together. A new subdivision comes in, they have stormwater infrastructure that's built, there's an outlet to a creek. You're kind of seeing your older area of town here, not a lot of storm infrastructure. It was less common to build stormwater infrastructure when that older section of town was established. So it's not surprising to see less infrastructure in this area here. You look at Deerfield, you look at Baker Farms, comparatively newer subdivisions, those have stormwater systems. So during this analysis here, we did some sub-basin analysis to see what the drainage patterns through town looked like. Generally what we were seeing is that stormwater drainage and stormwater management is not a major issue from the modeling and desk review standpoint. We coupled that with some anecdotal evidence from members of that committee, and that also provided some additional context for that. In our study and in that review, we did see that the area around north of the elementary school, around Clifty Falls, Shakamak, those subdivisions, there were maybe some instances where localized ponding was identified in modeling, and that was also backed up by some anecdotal evidence from the committee as well. So as we worked through the study, one of the things that was identified as a potential project is improvements to drainage in this area. So the study summarized a couple different options that you could pursue, installing some new storm sewer systems in that area. But as we discussed those with the committee, I think one of the things that was identified was the opportunity to couple stormwater improvement projects with the CCMG type projects that you guys do. So while there are some areas that you could improve in this quadrant of town, it's not, strictly speaking, major improvements that would be recommended there. The system as a whole is doing a pretty good job of protecting the town and your members of the public there. So the study did identify a couple projects ranging between, I think it was $500,000 and about $1 million to add some stormwater structures and pipes and new outfalls in that area to help improve stormwater management there. But I think we were seeing that was not something that would have as large an impact, as large a benefit to the rest of the town. Any questions on stormwater for the time being?
So nothing critical, everything seems to be functioning.
That's the biggest takeaway that I think is important to make. Nothing critical on stormwater. Let's see. Wastewater is the next one I'd like to talk about. This map is again showing your existing wastewater infrastructure. The town has 4 lift stations, 3 of which actually provide more of a regional flow management and conveyance. You do have 1 lift station that serves about 2 houses, so I would not consider that one to be a major one. The high level things that we were looking for in sanitary was, how's the capacity of your sewer? How are your existing pipes performing? Are there instances where during high flow conditions we have sanitary surcharges or overflows? The quick answer to that is no. We don't have any instances where you're getting overflows of your pipes. Excellent news. The next thing we were looking at is how are your lift stations performing? 2 of those lift stations, the Cemetery and the College Street lift station, have been rehabilitated within the past 10 years or so. So those have newer pumps in them. They're doing a pretty good job operating. The Deerfield lift station was another one that we looked at. Those pumps are original to when the subdivision was installed. Strictly speaking, they're not in bad shape, but they have probably approached the end of their useful life. So our study did identify that that lift station would be beneficial to rehabilitate or modernize. And I know Kurt is pursuing options to be able to do that from the town's end. We did put together a budget for lift station rehabilitation with engineering input to do that, and actually design it as a standalone type project. But strictly speaking, there's some equipment replacements that the town can do, that Kurt can do with direct sourcing on suppliers that are going to be a lower cost option for you. So it sounds like that's something that he's working further along with. The other thing that we wanted to do, as we know, there's interested parties in the area that are looking for opportunities to develop. We know that Baker Farms West has reached out about expanding. So we wanted to make sure that your existing system has adequate capacity for that growth and development. I'll touch on this again when we go through water, but these areas were identified as potential areas of growth and expansion. Now, whether or not the landowners there do end up selling, want to develop, that's not necessarily what we're trying to accomplish here, but we were wanting to see how these areas could develop. Somebody sells, you got a developer that wants to come in, putting in industrial, residential, housing, what have you there. How would your existing sanitary system perform at conveying sewage out of the town? There's one single trunk line that comes just along this route here and then connects into the City of Lafayette system here. That's what we're seeing on this line. So we wanted to see how some of these critical sections would perform if we put projected growth down here. So for example, if this whole area were to become some form of residential, how would this trunk line perform? How would this trunk line perform? And then how would we do leading out of the town? So Anthony did a pretty rigorous capacity analysis on some critical junctions in town to see what degree of usage they're at now. That's what this column's kind of showing here. So for example, this section right there, under a normal every day, the pipe's about 8% full. Not too bad. If you're at a peak flow condition, so everybody flushed all their toilets at the same time, all the sinks are running, all the dishwashers and washing machines are running, you're at about 31%. Plenty of capacity in that pipe. We also did some future projections. Again, what if this grew? What if this area grew? And we kind of assumed the maximum reasonable amount of growth. What kind of capacity usage would you be looking at? Again, all these critical junctions were performing well. So that's telling us that your system is adequately sized for what you're seeing today, and it's got plenty of capacity for future growth, and that may or may not happen. But you're well positioned to be able to handle it if it does. So again, with sanitary, we didn't really see any critical issues with that. Another aspect we were looking at was monitoring your flow. So we have flow meter data on this final release point into the city. We wanted to see the kind of reactivity that your system had to wet weather conditions. That's going to tell us if you have issues with inflow, so stormwater coming into your system, or infiltration, groundwater coming into your system. There is some. It's probably about 5 to 10% of the total flow on any given day could be attributed to groundwater or wet weather, which may seem like a lot, but for a town of this size and a system of this size and that age, it's pretty reasonable, pretty normal amount. So we would not consider I&I inflow and infiltration to be a major issue. So really, in summary, your sanitary system is in pretty good shape too. We would just say that Deerfield lift station, we'd recommend that for rehabilitation, which it sounds like the town is already actively trying to pursue. I will add the estimate that we came up with for that rehabilitation was about $300,000, which I'd say is a high-end estimate. With the Okra funds being, is it 3/4? 700,000?
750,000
Yeah.
up to.
That wouldn't really maximize your grant capabilities from Okra. So I think from our end, we usually like to try to come up with a project that maximizes those grant dollars so you can get the most bang for your buck. And there were fewer smoking guns on sanitary to do that.
In your estimate, what all were you guys doing?
We were looking at basically a complete replacement of all the mechanical equipment within that lift station. So the concrete structure would remain, taking out all the pumps, all the electrical equipment, replacing that with new, replacing valves.
So were you switching it from 3-phase to single phase?
So we would leave it at 3-phase. I think you have,
The other way around.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
because it's currently single phase.
yeah,
Yes.
So you would make it 3-phase.
we would make it 3-phase.
And that expense is included in this 300,000, including dealing with Duke on everything?
Our best guess is at what dealing with Duke is, yes.
Okay.
So generally, the cost estimates we came up with include construction costs as well as soft costs such as engineering, inspection, dealing with the other utilities involved on projects. So, I think we had pretty much good news to report for the town that your system's in good shape. On to water. I think coming into the study, water was one where the town and committee going into the study had identified issues and concerns that we wanted to address with the study. Your previous operator had mentioned an interest in seeing feasibility of having a water tower or a booster station or another pressure and supply regulating piece of infrastructure investigated. At the time, when the study was being started, there were known pressure issues out at Baker Farms, which it's at the furthest extents of your system. Water's got a longer way to travel to get out there. We can get pressure losses over pipes when we're looking at distances like that. So we started the study by putting together a hydraulic model of your system that's taking all the pipes, all the users, all the valves and everything, and putting that into a digital computer model for us to then be able to simulate what flow's happening during a specific condition. So we started by modeling your existing system with the water use data that we received from the town, and then we simulated a fire down at Baker Farms to see if we've got a lot of water going to the furthest extent, what's that doing to pressure throughout the town. While pressure does drop, it stays within the extents that we'd like to see it at. We don't want to see pressure drop below 20 psi because that's when we could get backflow coming into your pipes. Did not see any instances like that. Like I said early on, as we had started the study, there were known to be pressure issues down at Baker Farms. However, with some investigation, Kurt was able to determine that there were some valves throughout town that were not in the correct position. So he opened up some valves and pressure improved down there in the south end of town. Dramatically.
Wow.
So then our study shifted a little bit at that point. Continuing on with that water model, we were able to determine that under your existing conditions, the existing number of users and developments that you have in town, water pressure is not a major concern. So then we started looking at, well, how's water age doing? You've had the system in place for over 30 years. I think we've got general practices where there's some blocks, areas in town, some hydrants that are flushed regularly to help keep water fresh. There's some sections down here near the railroad where we know that Kurt operates the hydrant periodically when he sees that chlorine residuals are getting out of the range that we'd like to see. So after conversations with Kurt, we looked at what could we do from a design or construction standpoint to help eliminate some of those dead ends so he's not flushing hydrants as often. So we identified 4 different locations where water main could be looped to reduce the amount of hydrant flushing that's done on a regular basis there. So we identified an area to loop Deerfield Farms into the main 12-inch coming into town. We identified a short section to loop the cemetery, the water main near the cemetery there, as well as another loop section connecting, Shady Lane to Railroad, and then Wesleyan and Shady there. Again, these are not areas that are affecting a very large component of town, but they are potentially eliminating some dead ends and reducing the amount of hydrant flushing that you would need to do. Those are all areas where it's a couple blocks long and you've got maybe a dozen houses on it, so you're just not turning that pipe over very much. It would serve to benefit to loop those, but it's not a major, as in affecting a large portion of town, worry to do that. Now this loop from Deerfield to the main, that would be a larger impact overall. Right now Deerfield is fed from 2 points in a little bit of a roundabout way. We can come down on this 8-inch line on the northern half of the subdivision, and then there's another water main that feeds on the southern component there. It looks like there was intended to be a loop here when the subdivision was designed, but it was not installed for whatever reason. So having a short extension there would improve water age in that subdivision. As we were kind of talking about with sanitary sewer, growth and development was another thing that we wanted to have some considerations for. So similar to the sewer, we did a water supply analysis with some potential growth programmed into your system. Again, if we have residents or industrial or other users come in, how is your water system going to perform if there is growth and expansion? And there's a certain threshold that we would get to where you would want to see some additional redundancy or methods by which you would want to better supply water and provide pressure. Some of the developments that we quote unquote know are coming. There's a meeting for Baker Farms West. That's one that falls within the range of your town can handle that just fine. Your system can handle that development just fine. If we're looking at another 500 homes, that's where we probably need to see some pressure or supply improvement to make those more feasible without overtaxing the system. So we had looked at the options of adding a water tower or a booster station and what the costs would look like to do those. And costs for those were prepared. These are significant costs. A water tower is over $2 million. A booster station, again, similar in that range. Costs for those things have gone up considerably in the past 10 years. As we were studying that, as we were looking at your model, what we were really seeing is in a full build-out growth condition, it's this 12-inch main line, which is your only in-feed from Lafayette. That's the restrictor there. So we looked at an option of adding a redundant line from your connection point up at the well house, or excuse me, up at the meter house to a point here along Dayton Road. Based on existing infrastructure there's a stub that comes out here right now. There's a stub that comes out near this intersection of Dayton Road and Clear Falls now. It looks like a loop was at some point conceptualized. So this was really identified as a project that would benefit much of town. Were it to be installed in the short term, it provides a redundant feed into town. If there's ever an instance where there's an issue on this existing line, the town only has one way in right now. So if there's an issue somewhere on this line, we'd be hard pressed to come up with a way to bypass to still feed all of the town. This loop here could then provide that redundant path if there needs to be an issue if there needs to be any maintenance performed on that pipe. The additional benefit to that being, if we've got 2 feeds into town, the restriction or capacity restriction that this 12-inch has is then, it's not as big of a restriction for the rest of the town because now we've got 2 feed points into it. So we modeled a scenario where, let's say this whole town builds out here and here, how would this new 12-inch loop perform during a high flow event, a fire at another isolated area. So we ran a scenario where we modeled a fire down at the furthest extents of town, and then adding this loop drastically improves how that system could perform. So with water, the biggest takeaway is that your system as it exists today is performing well based on the number of users you have, and the general supply that your system is able to provide will serve you in, let's say a 5 to 10 year window if we've got subdivisions coming in. Baker Farms West with 110, 111 units, your system can handle that just fine. There was talk of, I think, an apartment complex around here. Your system would also be able to handle that. There are some benefits that could be had by eliminating some dead ends within town, and we've provided some cost estimates for those. They range from about $250,000 if we're taking it as just one single project, piecemealing these together. The highest one being this Deerfield loop at about $600,000. If you're going to do loops like that, you're best served probably having several and doing them all under one contract, so you're not getting multiple mobilization fees from a contractor there. So the report does provide cost summaries for doing them as individual projects, and then it provides a summary for doing them as one cohesive project. But I think the project that we would really recommend as having the most benefit for the town, both in the short term by providing redundancy and protection to the town, and in the long term by improving the supply and pressure that you're able to provide, would be this larger Dayton Road loop there. And Anthony, can you remind me what the estimate for that Dayton Road loop is? The total bottom number?
2 million.
About 2.5 million. So that's over a mile of 12-inch water main going along some new right.
And that's on county land, so we'd have to work with the county.
You'd have to work with the county there. County's generally pretty amenable to working with you on getting, at least in our experience, on when you put utilities within the right of way there. So along Dayton Road, would not anticipate too many challenges there. And then however we'd want to pursue it along 200 South. The stub looked like it was intended to come straight out, but it wouldn't be much to come up along 200.
Is that stubbed out at 12 inches there at the meter house?
Yeah.
It is.
Which, there's a hydrant over there. Strictly speaking, looking at it in a vacuum, it doesn't make sense for it to be a 12-inch stub unless there were thoughts for extending it further on.
Well, I think the original thought was that that was going to be the route of water coming in, and for whatever reason, they ended up coming down through there.
Yeah, that was something that we just didn't really have a whole lot of history on why that route was chosen at the time.
So there's enough easement available to be able to do that?
You'd have to get new easement for some portions of it, or you'd have to work with the county to use existing right-of-way. There's benefits to having your own dedicated easement. If the county ever comes in and they need to do something on Dayton Road and you're in their right-of-way, they may require you to move. If you're in your own dedicated easement, you have rights to what can and cannot be done.
So your cost included?
Our costs do include some easement acquisition to keep you in your own dedicated Town of Dayton utility easement. So the 2.5 million again includes construction, it includes land acquisition, soft costs such as engineering, grant administrating, other legal and financial consultants that you may need to pull on, like a rate consultant, or at least our best estimates at what those services cost. We don't provide them, so I do my best to guess what somebody else might be on those.
Did you do water age on that? Because it's going to add a lot of water into the system.
Yeah, so that's where, if you're looking at, let's say this loop were to come in today, the water turnover and water age concerns that you have would not necessarily improve right away. Now you've got over a mile of 12-inch water main. It's full of water that also needs to get turned over. And if you don't have more users or more turnover happening, that water is again at risk of becoming stagnant. So there's a couple different ways that you could mitigate that. One would be to just keep that line charged but isolated from your system. So it's there, it's full of water, it's pressurized, but these valves are closed. Water's not coming in and out of them. If you come to a point where you have issues on this and you need to bring this one online, you'd flush that pipe, get the fresh water in there, and then it'd be your way to service town right now. We wouldn't want it to be empty. If you leave a water main empty, it doesn't have pressure pushing out. That means water could come in on those joints, and we don't want that to happen. The other thing, which I think would make more sense, is to coordinate construction of this with known development coming in. Because then you're going to have more users, you're going to have more water draw and more turnover on that. And then you have an opportunity to recoup some of the costs for construction with updates to your cost recovery fees. I know you have cost recovery fees associated with development. So if a developer comes in, they have to pay a certain dollars per acreage to help pay for past infrastructure projects that have occurred. I think this would be a good opportunity to update those developer cost recovery fees if you were to bring this in. So there's a way to save and share some of the costs with developers since they'd be using that water.
The development of Baker's Farm West would that make a difference in that water, or does it need to be the more northern pieces of property?
Baker Farms West would make a difference.
Okay.
You'd get more turnover on that line because you've got more users, more draw coming into it. It's not enough with just that one developer. We probably need to see 2 or 3 of similar size to be able to have both of these open all the time and not have any issue with water age. There was a number of houses. I think it was about 230. So Baker Farms West gets you about halfway there.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's plenty of interest for that area.
Mm-hmm. So I think it benefits the town to know that this is an option and that there will come a point where water supply and pressure will become an issue. Will at a point as in you've got X number of users that come in and will continue to draw and use the water that you have there. So eventually, I don't like to use the word eventually because it just sounds wishy-washy, but eventually you'll get to the point where some degree of a project, whether it's a water main extension or loop or a water tower or booster station, would be needed to make sure that we're providing not just new users, but existing users or existing customers with the quality and safety in their water that they need to have.
The loop seems more ideal to me because, first off, if we get a water tower or even a booster station, then we have to have an operator with a different license.
There's also much higher maintenance costs, mechanical costs that are associated with those. A pipe in the ground it's a pipe in the ground. Booster station has pumps, it's got controls, it's got a lot more electrical components that are involved in that. Similarly, a water tower, certain permits are needed for those, operations licenses are needed for those. That adds a level of complication to how the system is operated and will be operated.
And then there's also the maintenance on the water tower as well.
Mm-hmm.
That to be painted every so often.
Yeah.
Well, I like the idea of the second line spill because it gives us redundancy.
Mm-hmm.
And it also further establishes our water jurisdiction area.
Do we have this, since we're running that line, can we count on any of our other municipalities that are going to be taking advantage of that, helping pay for any of that?
Other municipalities, you mean?
Well, that's Lafayette's area. I mean, they're the
No,
ones that are
it's
developing
not.
that.
That's in our water jurisdiction area.
But it's Lafayette, it's the city of Lafayette though, right? Wasn't that all
No.
annexed into Lafayette?
No, that's to
Further north?
the west.
Okay.
No, that would be our responsibility to provide service to those areas.
But we can add that into development costs.
Yeah.
Yep.
So whoever does come in there and develop, then everybody else will already be established in town, so they won't have further costs. But anybody new that comes in, then we can increase our costs to help recoup some of the costs.
And that's a
of this.
one-time that
Right.
a developer pays to you. Yeah.
Yep, I like the redundancy, and
But we'd have to pay for it up front,
right.
just like they did the entire system to begin.
I don't have anything else.
The Deerfield loop, that's the one from McAllister?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, and McAllister said that they're going to give us the land,
They'd be willing to donate it.
to
easily.
donate the land to do that on, so we don't have those costs that we have to deal with.
Now, I guess not to get too into the weeds on that, there's no costs associated. You don't have to purchase the land for them, but there are still costs associated
yes.
with recording and easement.
Oh, yeah, legal fees.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, the cost of land is.
But the cost to purchase the land is not.
Legal fees are okay, we like that.
Okay, any other questions?
What was that?
Have any public comment?
That's pretty much you, Tyrone.
All my questions.
All right, any council comment? Being the case, I guess I will close this public hearing.
Okay, so now that the hearing's closed and you, I guess, have reconvened your regular meeting, what we need to do in order to get things wrapped up with the state is, again, I'll type up minutes and make sure you get a copy of those. And then I've got the proof of publication, and the sign-in sheet, that goes into the state. And then we have to pass a resolution just approving the plan as presented. So I have copies of this, and then what I'll do is I'll leave a copy here with you. We'll get 2 copies signed. One we'll leave here with you, and then I'll take one back and scan it. So it's pretty straightforward. This resolution's nothing too difficult. But I brought a copy so that you could all see, and we'll just read through, and then we'll
No, leave it on. Yeah, leave it
make a motion and cast there.
on. It's good, I was worried that I was supposed to.
So we're just
No.
accepting the report.
Yeah, it's basically just
But nobody told me.
you're adopting the report as presented. It's not
So we're
saying,
not actually saying we're gonna spend this money.
no. You're just basically through this resolution saying BFS did what we hired them to do, and they came here, presented, gave us the information that we were looking for, answered some of our questions, and that's that. So I'll have to put these on because I cannot read anymore without. So it basically indicates that the town of Dayton had identified adequate reasons to analyze the condition of your utility infrastructure systems and develop long-term capital improvement plan. The town had hired BFS to define and describe the issues, advise us of our options, and make recommendations to address this issue in the near future. And the town of Dayton received a community development block grant from the Office of Community and Rural Affairs to fund the study and has contributed $10,000. That was a match that you had submitted or had identified at the time of the application. The town has reviewed the process and completed the study thoroughly and is satisfied with the services performed, information contained therein, and the methodology applied. The town had received 2 copies of this document, as well as, I'm assuming that y'all gave them an electronic file of it, for your records, and we'll keep them on file for future use. If you ever decide to move forward with anything, you have that information. So basically it says, be it resolved by the town of Dayton that the final document is hereby approved, contingent upon comments and approval received from Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs. They've already approved it. The town of Dayton will fully consider all comments and feedback received from Okra, which they had none. They said it was a really good study, very thorough, and will direct its consultants to provide amended copies of this plan reflecting all said comments, which there were none. So basically all you need to do is make a motion to adopt the plan as presented, and we'll sign this. We'll sign 2 copies, leave 1 with you, and I'll take 1 and get it to the state.
Cindy, do you know what the next number is?
No.
I just asked, yeah.
You just asked me that. I mean, I can find it pretty quick, but.
You can just email that to me
Okay.
and I can put it on there and you
Okay.
can put it on yours.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then make sure that you put that in your minutes the next meeting.
Okay.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we accept this resolution number 2025 yet to be determined.
TBD.
Yeah, for the water, sewer, and stormwater master planning project. I don't have to say on suspend the rules on
No,
first
it's a
reading,
resolution,
because it's a
so,
resolution.
yeah.
Okay, and I guess allow me to sign it because it doesn't have any other signatures on here.
Yeah, it'd just be your signature and then it's attested.
Okay.
Somebody on the board can, or we normally just have Cindy.
Okay, so that's the motion.
I'll second that.
Motion made by myself and seconded by Steve.
Let's
Yes.
vote. Steve. Rocky.
Favorable.
Mark.
Yes.
And Carla.
All right. Motion carries.
All right. Well, Mark, if you could just sign both copies here, and then I'll get those both to Cindy, and she'll keep 1, and I will get the other. All right. So, like indicated, this will all go into the state. It takes them about a week to approve, and then they give us our green light to order the remaining funds. So, if you haven't already, direct your accounting department to get your final bill.
It'll be, I think we do billings like the 1st or 2nd week of the month, so
So-
I'm either gonna get them this week or next.
Okay, all right, so that will be, so they'll be sending you an invoice.
Okay.
And when you get that, you just scan that and send that to us, and
Okay.
we will, as soon as we get the green light, we'll order the funds, and then those funds will come, and then you can write out the check for that amount.
Okay.
It'll probably be a little less because part of your local match paid for a small portion. Then this is our invoice, this is our first and final for the admin, and that was part of the local match. So, that is, so just
This
take
is
that.
what I owe you.
Right, so you'll just take that to your, you'll get it approved, I guess this
Mhm.
is a council meeting tonight.
Mhm.
It can be the next one.
Yeah.
And then our address, you can't hardly see it, so I wrote it there.
Okay.
And make sure, because it's different than what Bridget had entered, I worked out of my house for years, we sold the
Uh-huh.
house, we were renting a place, and now we bought a new home, and so now I've
Okay.
moved to a new location.
Okay,
So-
that's fine.
so that's it, but you should have our ID information and everything, and
Yeah.
if you don't, if you need anything, just email us,
I
and we'll
will.
do that, but yeah, when we get their final invoice, then we can get things paid,
Okay.
and I'll submit, and once everything's paid, then I'll put together the final closeout paperwork, get you to sign that, and it's basically done, so then it's up to you all to decide. If you didn't really sound like you have anything immediate, that pressure issue with the valves.
How long is
Goodness.
is it all good, I guess, how long's it good for? If they decide, say, 2 years from now, is the PER still?
Yeah, the PER is apparently over a planning of a it uses that 20-year projection. So what would have to happen is that if they decide to apply, you'd have to do like a quick amendment to the cost, update cost, but basically indicate that, nothing has substantially has changed. In turn, our initial recommendations were fine with updated cost, and that's all they would need. And then that could be submitted to SRF, USDA, whomever would be the financing agency with that amendment. Okay? All right.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions you have? Or
We will not have to have another special meeting.
Nope.
Okay.
no? Once this all goes in, you pay both bills, you've satisfied the requirements, and we'll just close you out and
Okay.
have you, open window to apply for other types of grants. I mean, it doesn't sound like you have anything utility related, but I know a long time ago we talked about some other things that you guys were interested in. We kind of tabled those because we really thought that we were going to be hit with a big deal here on the pressure, and then we find out that a few valves it really significantly changed that. So in turn, it does open it up for. It doesn't look like you've got any huge thing, pressing where maybe you could, if there's something else that you'd want to address, community related, community building, downtown revitalization. I don't know what else there might be that you might want, but think about it. And if you have anything, you have my email. Okay?
All right, thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome. I'm kind of glad, I'm glad that seemed like a lot of things, and the nice thing is that you do have all this information so
Sure.
that you are prepared
Right.
when developers come. So it was not to no avail by any means. So you're in a good position now to address those needs as communities grow this way.
Well, it's coming, and
Yeah.
I probably have to be looking at this before too long anyhow. Something, probably that looping would probably be the way to go, and we'll have to discuss it. But it's coming, so.
Okay. All right. Well. Okay.
All right.
Any council comment?
Shannon, so you mentioned rehab or community or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if we wanted to rehab this building or do anything like that, is there stuff for that?
You can't, if it's a building that is utilized for town operations, meaning town offices, that is an ineligible activity under the Okra program. If there's anything from an ADA accessibility standpoint, those things are eligible. But
About, there's a huge upstairs to this building that's
That
unused.
is completely unused.
And that could be the community center area up there.
and in the event that because I know at one time you were talking about maybe this building and
Right.
doing some commercial.
There's no building there.
We done fixed
It is
that.
gone. It's gone.
Well, and to fall under the 88 piece, we would always.
But that's the whole
To do that,
thing.
we would have to drop an elevator in here as well.
Absolutely. So that would be eligible where you could put in an elevator shaft to take it up to have a second floor that could be a community center with a nice large room, kitchen, meeting room, what have you. So that would absolutely be eligible. Just note you could, if you, in the event that you wanted to hire an architect to kind of look at what that would take and what that would look like and get some community interest in that. You could apply for another planning grant. Now, it's not as much as a utility, but it's up to $20,000 that could help you with the initial architectural feasibility drawings just to see what the cost would be affiliated before you made a decision to move forward. Or you could hire somebody, you could get a contractor or somebody to kind of walk and give you an idea, and we put together a preliminary floor plan and scope, and you could apply directly for a construction grant. And Those are actually, they've increased that. It used to be 500, but they've increased that now to 750,000.
Is that
So
an 80-20 or, is that, they just give us 750?
you have to bring in at least 10% of the total project cost. So let's say that your total project cost was 700,000. You would have to bring in at least 70, and then the grant would fill in the rest. But obviously, the more match you put in, it increases your chances of getting funded, simply because it's a competitive process, and every match over, every percent over, you know, if you put in 15%, that's 5 extra points.
Right.
And quite honestly, that's a pretty competitive program, so all points are needed. But, you know, it's one of those things you gotta just kind of figure out if it, you know, what needs to be done, how it can be done. Is the roof in good shape structurally? We need new HVAC. You know, I don't know. But you gotta get your, a defined scope and cost, and then we make that determination as
And
to.
that would be that grant, the first one you mentioned.
Yeah, that planning grant, just, it's the exact same process as what we've just gone through. You put in an application, and, you know.
What's the startup cost for that? Is it just a matter of saying, hey, go do this, and you do your magic and go from there?
Well, a little bit. So there's the grant writing, which that would entail, putting the application together, conducting the public hearing, helping you with the procurement process, because you'd have to, before you apply, you would have to solicit statement of qualifications from architects and meet with them and shortlist that. And so doing all of that activity, you're looking at $2,500 to do that. And then once it would be awarded, part of your local match would pay for the administration, and that's 8% of the total grant amount. So on a $20,000 grant, I think that's
Roughly 52,000 somewhere.
yeah, well, it's less than that. Right. So I mean, it's only 8% of 20, so it would be around 2,000. That's 10%. So
is that something we want to look into right away, or is it?
Well,
Because as we lead into more of the ADA stuff, we're going to be headed down that path anyway.
I don't know if I'm ready to make a decision
Right.
on that tonight,
well, that's
but I would be in favor of, you need figuring out how to utilize that space upstairs.
Well, it sounds like this planning grant is the way to start that, because otherwise we're just kind of guessing and bits and pieces of it.
right. Well, I think, I mean, really, you know, I know that January is normally a heavy month for you guys, right, at the first of the year. But they accept these applications 4 times per year. And if we got started on, you know, if I were to come back to your February meeting, or if you decided, hey, we want to move forward, let me know. I can come back to the February meeting, have it all typed up with a schedule and what would need to be done and cost, and then you can make your formal decision, and we can move forward with that. So you mull it over the holidays, get through January, and after your January meeting, if you're still interested, let me know, and I can come back to the to your February meeting, and we can start the process to get you in the next available funding cycle. Does that sound okay? All right.
That sounds great.
Thank you, Shannon.
Okay. And here, I'm gonna give this, and I will give this, and I'll email that, but Rocky, you'd ask for it. So, here's the contact information. I'm gonna give you, just since there might be a potential project down the road. So, I have recently taken a new position. After 29 years of running, operating my own company, towards the end of this year, which is just in a couple weeks, it's going to be kind of we're still gonna be finishing out projects that we had, but it's going to be coming to an end. I, in turn, have been hired by Baker Tilly. I know, it took them 2 years to convince me that this was the right move, but Baker Tilly is a financial advisor that I've worked with for a number of years on all kinds of different projects, and they in turn obviously provide financial auditing, capital improvement plans, all of the financial types of things that communities need. In turn, they are wanting to, knowing that I was getting close to that age of, after 34 years of doing it, that I was thinking about maybe winding down. They approached me and said, we'd like to provide this service to some of our municipal clients that are in a void. So I am training a team of individuals to take over what I do. I'm committed to them for the next 5 years, but I'm still the point person. And any community that I worked with prior to taking on this new position, they maintain my cost. So those costs that I gave you were based on that because, I've had a lot of my clients go, okay, so now you're working for a huge company. Are you going to charge more? And I said, not for clients that I had under my umbrella. So yeah, still me, still same service, same cost, just under a different name. It's under Baker Tilly. So I will send you, I still got my Shannon at PPR, all of that, but I'm trying to get it where I'm not having to do 2 computers in one day. So yeah, that's been a little, So come the first of the year, I'm hoping to just do the Baker, where you can contact me at my Baker Tilly, but I will send you all of that information kind of with a little reminder right after the holiday saying, if you're still interested, let me know, and I'll come back to you in February.
So in essence, even though you'll still be doing it, our grant writer will be Baker Tilly.
It will be Shannon under Baker Tilly instead of Shannon under Priority Project Resources.
Okay.
Yes, because there's no one on that staff yet that is able to handle what I do. I'm training a team of 5 individuals, but I remember when I first came here, that was one of your concerns was you're kind of a one-man shop. What happens if something happens to you? So now I've got a lot of backup, and I don't know, do you utilize Baker Tilly for your,
Well, we used them when we put our redevelopment commission together.
Mm-hmm. I didn't, I don't really, I mean, they've got a lot of clients, and I didn't know if that was one that, but that's what, and I'm not pawning any of their other services, I'm not, so if you utilize me for your grant, you don't have to utilize them for the other financial support services. This is just a complete new line, and they cover the entire state, and they really are good at what they do, and I think that this will be a good move in their direction and for them. And it was kind of a reluctant, I was a little reluctant, but I was like, yeah, it's a good way to phase out. So
Where are they out of?
well, they're Indianapolis, and then they've got an office in Mishawaka, but they are in basically all of the surrounding states as well. But they are a large firm, but right now it's just me and 5 people that I'm training that, like I said, there's no way I would turn them loose on anything quite yet. But I wanted to be transparent, so I will email you we'll email to close this up by the end of the year. Still utilize Molly and my email address when you get that. Nothing's changed. But then the first of the year, I will email you and just a reminder to see if you're still interested in moving forward in February. Okay?
Very good.
All right. Great. Well, happy holidays. Have a wonderful Christmas, New Year, and hope to see you again in February. Yeah.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon. Any other council comment?
No.
This meeting is adjourned.
Do you guys handle, architectural stuff at all, or is it just all engineering?
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah,
Shannon, so you need
we
this.
probably got some names
Sign
of people that we work with.
We got,
Did Cindy, I
Yeah,
gave her.
right. Cindy Green?
we probably got 3.
You got my emails in the,
Yeah.
You got that?
Unless Shannon's got some specific people, the
Architects?
architects.
I have some architects that I've used on these types of projects.